Hello, everyone. I'm Mike Teeling, your host for today's webinar. Thank you for joining us for what we know will be a very engaging topic. Will Agentic AI replace or reinvent SaaS? We're pleased to welcome you to this timely discussion. Today's agenda will cover the evolving relationship between autonomous artificial intelligence and systems and traditional software as a service. Joining us today are two exceptional speakers from Talentica Software. Ritesh Agarwal, Solution Architect, and Alakh Sharma, Senior Data Scientist, both of whom bring deep, hands-on experience working with AI technologies in software development. They've seen firsthand how these systems are being integrated in real-world environments, from startups experimenting with AI agents to established platforms that are evolving to stay relevant. During today's webinar, we'll dive into the debate over whether agentic AI will replace traditional software and offer a forward-looking view into the next chapter of software innovation. To bring these ideas to life, we'll walk through some examples of real-world applications already in production, where AI agents are improving workflows, automating tasks, and helping teams move faster without giving up control or structure. Before we get started, there's a few housekeeping items that I need to cover. First, during the session, you'll see a few pop-up polls. Participation is optional, of course, but would love to hear your opinion. So please lend your input to our discussion. Second, be sure to stick around until the end, because we'll also have a live Q&A session where you can ask your own question or share your thoughts on today's topic. Finally, today's webcast will be made available through an on-demand playback link that will be sent to your registration email shortly after today's session. So let's kick things off with our first poll question. We'd like your opinion on whether you think agentic AI will replace SaaS or reinvent it. So let's bring up that first poll question. Take a moment to respond to the question that you see on your screen. That coming up? All right. Maybe not. Okay, that's fine. I'd like to hand it over now, if we can, to Ritesh Agarwal, who will explore the key differences between agentic AI and traditional software. How you doing, Ritesh? Oh, wait a minute. Before we do that, let's get the poll. Okay, we're going back to the poll, guys. All right, here we go. Go ahead and put in your answer. And by the way, we'll be happy to share these poll results in our post-event email. All right, so we want to know your opinion. It's always interesting to see where the audience stands on this emerging tech. All right, great. Now I think we're ready to hand it over to you, Ritesh.
Hey.
So Ritesh is going to talk about exploring the key differences between agentic AI and traditional software. Take it away.
Thanks, Mike. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining the webinar. I know you might not like what you see on the screen right now, but after CEO of Microsoft, Satya Nadella, said something about SaaS and agents, this is all over the news, and people have written n number of blogs with this kind of topics like, is AI going to kill SaaS? SaaS is dead, right? Or SaaS is on life support. But did he really say that, or did he really mean it? We will figure it out in the next slide. Right. This is what he actually said. It's true that software as a service, or SaaS, generally has a backend which has CRUD databases, which means create, read, update, delete databases, servers, and business logic. But the business logic is not just few hundred lines of code. They are millions of lines of code, right? So yes, in the agentic era, a part of it will move from the business layer to the agentic layer. I agree to that. But that will not kill SaaS. It will just augment it. That's what he said. He didn't mean that SaaS will just go away, right? So before predicting the future of SaaS, let's understand what SaaS and agentic AI offers and our experience so far with agentic AI and a few case studies. So what is SaaS, right? SaaS is like, a software delivery model wherein any user can use a software on his or her mobile phones or laptops or iPads and stuff like that. And you can browse it, you can click through the app. There is no major learning curve in majority of the platforms, right? You, like for instance, you use Facebook, you use Amazon for shopping. It's just so easy, right? You just click and you get the job done. So that's what makes SaaS so beautiful and so easy to use and user friendly. And that's what SaaS is all about. It's cloud based, it can scale easily, right? You can use it and it is cost effective. Of course, some SaaS is free, like Facebook and WhatsApp and stuff like that. But then some are paid, right? Salesforce and Slack and Shopify. But this is what, in a nutshell, is SaaS. Next, Alakh will walk us through the benefits of Agentic AI and our experience leveraging Agentic AI in some real-world software development products. Handing over to Alakh.
Thanks, Ritesh, and thank you for very good insights from and this myth bust. So let's talk about what agentic AI really is. Unlike traditional tools that wait for human commands, agentic AI system act like autonomous agents. They create their own task based on goal, make decisions, and take action on your behalf, often with little to no manual guidance. There are three qualities that define these systems. First, they are goal driven. Instead of following step by step instructions, they focus on achieving outcomes. So rather than asking, how should I do this? They ask what's the goal and figure out the rest. So think of a conventional SaaS like ordering a pizza. You choose everything manually and step by step, whatever you need. Agentic AI is like saying, get me dinner under amount X by 8 p.m. So it plans and executes the entire task on its own, divide and order. An agent figures out the restaurant, places the order, handles payment, all on its own. That's the power of agentic systems. So, like a real world example where Copilot helps developer write code by understanding intent from the natural language. Like this could be another example from this goal-driven example use case. Second, they are context aware. They continuously adapt based on real-time informations and user needs. Think of them as systems that adjust on the fly, not just execute fixed logic, which we are doing in the conventional SaaS. Another example we can take in this category is Amazon Robotics. It runs complex warehouse with minimal human control by interacting and learning continuously from surrounding environment. So if an object in front of robots, then in maybe in first or second iteration, they can collide, but it will learn automatically. And if next time they will see, or robot will see any object, then it will move aside and pass it. Then third, like these category for agentic AI is they are autonomous. They can act independently, reducing the need of for constant human oversight. That makes them incredibly scalable and efficient. Like take ServiceNow as an example. It automates IT and customer service workflows, reducing routine workload by over 50%. So you have already seen agentic AI in action like Copilot, Amazon Robotics, and ServiceNow. These aren't just smarter tools, they represent a fundamental shift. They don't just support our work, actually, they actively work for us. So we have weighted the benefits for this conventional SaaS and agentic AI. Now let's look back at how we got there. So we started with on-prem system before 1994. Everything was hosted locally. Then came web application around 1995, making software accessible through browsers. This didn't kill on-prem, but gave a more scalable alternative. Like in 2006, cloud computing arrived. It revolutionized infrastructure. Suddenly, businesses didn't need to manage their own servers, but again, on-prem and web apps still exist. Now just with one more flexible options. Like in SaaS in 2007 made software even more accessible, subscription based, zero installation. Tools like Salesforce and Google Apps changed how we worked. Yet, traditional software didn't disappear. It evolved found niche use cases. By 2015, cloud native apps emerged, designed for scale, resilience, and rapid iterations. This further pushed to the boundaries but is still built upon everything before it. Now we are in the era of agentic AI, starting around 2023. These systems don't just follow instructions, they understand intent, take action, and adapt dynamically. But like all previous stages, agentic AI won't replace earlier software models. It will augment and elevate them. Just like SaaS didn't kill web apps and the cloud didn't eliminate on prem, agentic AI is here to make systems smarter, not redundant. The tools we used before didn't become obsolete, they became building blocks for more intelligent, more adaptive solutions. That's the real story of the progress. Let's take one example where we can replace this core business logic to agentic AI solution. So what has really changed with the agentic AI? In a typical SaaS setup, business logic like validating claims, applying approval rules, and checking policy compliances is hard coded into workflows. Everything else, login, submission, backend systems remains the same. But with agentic AI, we replace the core logic layer with an intelligent agent. So instead of downloading receipts manually, filling out forms, and navigating menus, now the user just types, I want to submit a claim. The agent understands the intent, pulls requests from receipts from emails, applies business rules like, let's say we want to flag something. Flag if over amount X. Then again fill the form and either shows it's inside the chatbot itself. That's how we can improve UI. Otherwise, it can navigate to expense page, which usually we see in the conventional SaaS. So with the agents, manual becomes automatic, efforts become intent. That's the power of agentic AI in a SaaS workflow. Let me elaborate this with two real world case studies. One is integration of agentic AI in existing SaaS, like enterprise, and other one is like AI native SaaS. Let's go more deeper in enterprises. So this first real world use case is like we used agentic AI to streamline enterprise workflows. The goal was to build next gen business apps that don't just follow rules but act intelligently to handle complex tasks on their own. Think of like a manual process like PDF reconciliation, cross referencing invoice data, and generating reports. These are traditional, slow, uh, error prone as well, and heavily dependent on whatever that system we have. The main challenges wasn't just solving the problem, it was doing so without disrupting this existing big systems. We needed a solution that could seamlessly integrate with their current SaaS stack. So, like this SaaS stack, whatever we have, these systems, they can be have like some existing databases, Postgres, like third-party APIs. So we don't want to completely overhaul with this whole system. This meant the agent had to work with the data, legacy formats, and inconsistent schemas. It can be from multiple sources, while still delivering real-time insights and automations. That's what we want to replace from the manual to agent side. This wasn't just a single agent, it was a fully fledged agent flow automation system. The idea was to dynamically build agent workflows using three key components. First, rulebook that defines what needs to be achieved. Actually, it helps us to generate the prompt for that particular agent. Now, second, the connected data sources as input, like databases, which we are using in the conventional SaaS as well. But in this, it will treat like a data sources. MongoDB, Postgres, third-party API tools, some documents, files, etc. Third is like tools. It's a mixing of existing tools or like some custom tools. Existing tools like PDF parser, OCR, we can use some custom tools for use cases, the particular use cases, or some like let's say let's take one example from the YouTube summarization. So we need one tool for like accessing YouTube videos, right? So That kind of tools we can utilize. So these three things will take agent as input and process, automate whole workflow. Let's take one real world use case for this particular system. In one scenario, one agent might use a PDF parser to extract data from documents, but in another, the system might spin up SQL agent to run queries, right? NL to SQL, or a summarization agent to analyze customer support tickets. So what's powerful here is the flexibility. The system builds agents flows on the fly based on the rule book, using the right tools and the data for each task. If the business logic changes, say the rule for flagging invoice updates, there is no need to rebuild anything. The agent flow adapts automatically as per the new rules. Let's this case shows how agentic AI isn't just about replacing tasks, like whatever conventional says is that task. It's about building self-sufficient, goal-driven agents that utilize existing infrastructure, follow business logic, and adapt to change. It's enterprises automations, but with a brain. Let's take another case study. The second real world use case. It's about like AI native SaaS built from marketing that autonomously plans, executes, and optimizes campaigns. Traditionally, marketing tools require manual setup, cross-channel coordination, and constant oversight. But it slows down everything and wasting teams' bandwidth. So we wanted to create fully automated end-to-end campaign workflows. Seamlessly, it extract metadata across different channels, generate content, launch multi-channel campaigns, and continuously measures performance as well. So we implemented a multi-agent architecture where specialized AI agents handle key campaigns tasks like strategy, creation, and execution. So we kept human in the loop. Marketing leads now in this one whole process can review automated, creative, and targeted suggestions before launch, right? Monitor transparent logs explaining each AI decisions, ensure brand safety and compliances. So this oversight builds confidence. Human retains control while agents doing like all the heavy lifting. It's already in production. How people will trust it, we will see. Since we are removing the old conventional SaaS and moving to the familiar SaaS to with the AI native. So we will see how it will perform. So that was like a glimpse into how agentic AI is already making an impact. With that, I will hand it over to Mike to take us further.
Thank you, Alakh. Those are fascinating, really good real-world case studies of agentic AI in action. So I appreciate that. And audience, it's time for our second poll question. We'd like to know, adopting agentic AI isn't just about the technology. It's also about overcoming some real-world concerns. So we'd like to hear from you, what's top of mind for you and your organization? What's your biggest concern when it comes to integrating agentic AI into your products or services? So we got a few choices here for you to choose from, and we'll take a few moments for you to get your answers in. Again, we'll be sure to share these results with you after this session in your email, along with the link. So thank you for participating. Now, Ritesh, let's take a closer look at the key areas where agentic AI is currently facing challenges.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Alakh. Now that you have seen the real world examples of AI agents, which Alakh explained beautifully, but with all this comes some struggles which we face while we work with AI. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, these three top contenders we chose: trust and explainability, task boundaries, and domain complexity. Trust and explainability is, I think, in my opinion, one of the biggest thing. It's the most important thing that should be remembered when we build an agentic AI system. Because if an end user does not trust the outcome, then it's very difficult for any user to adapt to the software, right? Because there is no explainability and there is no trust on that. So when you work, even as a developer, when we work with copilots, GitHub copilots or cursor agents, we see how beautifully they explain what each steps they are taking, reading files, writing files, talking to LLM, and they also summarize everything in the end, which you can read and understand what was done, so that you start trusting the agent for what it is doing. No, because no end user likes the black box kind of output. All right. So trust is very important. Second is task boundaries, right? So let's take an example of a task boundary. Say for instance, you have created 3 agents for a ticketing system where one agent categorizes them from L1, L2, L3 and levels of tickets. Another agent is responsible to see some content in the ticket and involve a human when required. And third agent refunds when the amount is, say, less than $50. Now, there is a possibility that a human is involved by an agent and the refund is also initiated at the same time, because uh, uh, they both have these different task boundaries, but then they are not able to manage that. And because now once the amount is refunded, there is no point in uh, involving a human, right? So that's where it becomes difficult, where clear boundaries needs to be defined for each agent, right? So even in one of the podcast in somewhat in January this year, Sam Altman did say that agents, the way LLMs are trained, that needs to change to support agentic behavior better. So I think with time, definitely everyone will overcome these kind of problems, right? And of course, there is domain complexity is another struggle. LLM is not trained on all the domain knowledge that a software as a service or a SaaS platform has gained over decades of experience, right? Of course, to solve this problem, we have RAG, retrieval augmented generation, that we use, but still there you will find when you use it that there are hallucinations. Of course, there are techniques which we can use to mitigate that or to test that. For example, we have Berkeley's function calling leaderboard, right? Or we have agent quest or agent board. We could use that, but then if fundamentally things do not change in LLM, these challenges will take time to be solved. Moving next, we will see why SaaS still matters. Now, in my opinion, over working with multiple agentic systems, I think that SaaS still matters because the core APIs, the role-based access controls, the login, the multi-tenancy, the security, all of these still needs to be handled because these are the most important aspects of an application, correct? Now, for me, if you ask what, in my opinion, I take traditional SaaS like a Formula One car, where it is fine-tuned to navigate a particular terrain very well. And AI as a self-driven car, AI agents as a self-driven car, which navigates certain streets well. And for better control, human have to come into the picture, right? So, in my opinion, agent should be used definitely. SaaS still matters, but agent should not be used everywhere throughout the application. It should be used where it is needed, not everywhere. We'll move next and we will see what it means for software going forward. So I think these are the main things where human and AI collaboration is very important when we build any software as a service, even if we are building from scratch or we are building on top of what we already have. We need to make sure that human have the full control over what they see and what they are able to do in the platform. Like you can pause the agent, you can modify the output, you can approve, you can reject, and stuff like that. Of course, to achieve these kind of things, it cannot just be done with raw code. We need multiple frameworks to do so. One of the example which is very popular nowadays is the MCP protocol, the model context protocol launched by Anthropic, right? Agent to agent protocol launched by Google. So these protocols helps to make sure that what we do and what humans see is in sync, right? And if we talk about AGUI, right, then Copilot Kit is one of the example. And building agents, LangGraph, Crew AI, there are many frameworks. So I think we should use these kind of frameworks in the front end, in the back end, so that the human AI collaboration becomes friction free, correct? And as I said, now that we have seen the plus and minus of both SaaS and agentic AI, so my final take on this is that it will not replace SaaS, but it will augment, as Alakh already mentioned, it will augment it, it will improve it. Although I cannot put a timeline on things, where there will be a time where things could change, but that might take some time. LLMs needs to change. There will be many frameworks which are coming in that needs to change, and we will see over the period of time how things change. Handing over to Mike.
Thanks, Ritesh. That was great, guys. Lots of good stuff here. So I thank you both for very insightful presentations. There's clearly a lot of stuff for folks to consider here. So now it's time for a little panel discussion. For those listening live today, we'd love to hear your questions or your reactions or even your own experiences with Agentic AI and specifically with software integration with it. So get your question or comment in now. To do so, all you do is click the button with the question mark down at the bottom menu bar at the bottom of your Zoom window. That will open the Q&A window for you to type in your question. But before we open it up to the audience, guys, let's spend a few minutes kind of discussing what the future might look like from Talentica's perspective, okay? To start, I don't think anyone in our audience would argue that Agentic AI is still an emerging tech. What capabilities do you think are still needed before it becomes mainstream?
So that's a great question, Mike. And the short answer is agentic AI isn't ready for prime time just yet, but it's getting close. Like for it to go mainstream, we need a few critical capabilities to mature. First is trust and security. So these systems must respect user privacy, comply with regulations, which is already mature like GDPR, CCPA, and safeguard data in complex multi-agent environments. Second is like explainability and accountability. So like agentic AI can't be a black box, which Ritesh already mentioned, right? We need clear, transparent reasoning behind its decisions. So like what we call, it's like a glass box logic and strong audit trails that align with the enterprise risk and governance models. Third and important is robustness because we are moving to productions, right? These agents will operate in high stake settings. So we need rigorous adversarial testing, sandbox simulations, fallback mechanisms, and resilience against attacks like memory poisoning or tool misuse. So finally, they must work consistently across edge cases and diverse environments. It's not enough to impressive in a demo. It needs to be like a reliable in productions. So while we are seeing exciting progress, there's still work to be done before agentic AI becomes truly enterprise ready.
Yeah, that was what I was gonna. As you were talking, I was thinking, that it really all translates to making AI agentic, enterprise grade. I would use the same term. So another question worth exploring is how tech companies should think about product design, or how to adapt their product design. Maybe is a better way to put it, when their software may be used by both humans as well as AI agents.
Yes, I think, Mike, the way forward is more hybrid in nature, in my opinion. Things should move hybrid. We definitely should start thinking for AI first applications or AI native applications, but there are places where AI doesn't fit that well, where deterministic code works better. I think, for example, if a user comes into a platform to just check his or her orders, it's just a single click, right? You just click and you check the order. There is no point in having an agent where the user has to go in, type a lot of content and then wait for the results, because as we know, agentic behavior is again a bit slow, right? We have to do the RAG, we have to go to AI multiple times to talk to AI, and then we get the response, so which makes the application a bit slower. Hence it is important, it is placed in certain places, of course, but it is important that when we design such a system, it is important to design them not just for success, but we should design them for failure, because it's AI, it's non-deterministic in nature. So the application should be designed for failure. That is one of the architectural things that we need to consider. We should test lot and lot for failure patterns so that we know if it is going to work for the end user or not, right? Now, of course, those days are gone, right, where you see numbers on the screen, correct, when you build an application or a report. So now these numbers need to talk to the end users, give some insights, give some actionable insights to the end users, right? So we have to understand that AI agents itself are not a product. They are not your product actually. They are just your, margin amplifiers, wherein they help you to sell better, to serve the users better, right? And make the application a little less costlier for the end user. So that should be the goal, essentially, in my opinion, Mike.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is there's still a lot of need for human intervention, right? We're not going away yet.
Exactly.
So yeah, here's my third and final question, kind of before we open it up to the audience. If you guys were starting a software company today, would you build SaaS first, AI first, or a hybrid of the two? What do you think about that?
Well, I think Ritesh already covered and intention behind it. So if I would like obviously like the AI native, but as we know, all those restrictions and things. So currently, in the today's ecosystem, a hybrid approach is the most practical and powerful path because like a few things we take an example with that as like a core business logic we can replace with a agentic AI, but it's still like crude operations, some existing SaaS behavior should be exactly same as a conventional SaaS, which I agree with Ritesh as well, where actually it's close. But currently, with the current ecosystem, I think we should go with hybrid approach only. So, with a business core where it's like really required, where we need the agentic AI to work, there we can integrate it. For everything else, things that needs stability, governance, and structured control, I would still rely on traditional SaaS components only. So in short, agents were there. They solve real problems. SaaS where we need structure. So it should be like hybrid.
Okay, great. Thank you. So let's give our audience a turn to ask you some questions. They've been very patient. So here's our first question. How are these agentic AI flows implemented? Are there any platforms that you guys can recommend?
Yeah, so there are like a lot of platforms. There are like a famous LangChain, then Crew AI, AWS AI, Microsoft AutoGen. So there are like more mature platforms to implement these agentic architectures, where it supports multi-agent as well, and all those things.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Next question is,
there
oh,
are
go.
platforms, right? Like N18, you can use. There is another platform called Vellum you can use, where you can build your agents by, dragging and dropping boxes from a panel. You can add integrations to Slack, to Jira, and to Google and Perplexity AI and all those things. But the biggest problem using those kind of platforms, which I have seen, is the deployment. Once you do that, they force you to deploy in their own infrastructure, and then comes the problem of VPC connectivity, VPC peering between your infrastructure in their infrastructure. That's again a big challenge, right? So yes, definitely we can use those kind of platforms, but in general, I would say if we want to build agentic AI platform, I would myself love to go with frameworks rather than platforms altogether. Frameworks like, Crew AI or LangGraph. There are, we can talk about in for hours, I mean, about Crew AI, LangGraph, but my personal choice is LangGraph. I find it more better, more user friendly, because it is graph oriented, and Crew AI is more role oriented. It becomes very difficult at times to, define roles for each agent, and it becomes, a little bit of hard coding for me, where we have to define the role every time. So in my opinion, yes, these things are there, but yeah, instead of platform, I would, at least at this point of time, go with frameworks. Yeah, Mike.
Okay, thank you. The next question is the cost of huge infrastructure, and the questioner put this in quotes, is the cost of huge infrastructure still a roadblock to adding AI agent capabilities in products?
Yes, I think it is, depends on how we are using it. So if we are talking about self-hosting using Llama 3 or Quen models or other models which are open source, then yes, it is a roadblock because it will require enormous amount of resources to launch the instances. For instance, if you are, launching a 32-bit quantized model, right? It will take up around 185 vCPUs. I mean, that's more like $62 an hour you are talking about. So that's the cost. But if you are working with OpenAI or Gemini, then yes, the cost is much lesser because it's a shared environment, shared APIs that you guys are using. But yes, AI application building is one thing. Then second thing is testing. Third thing is user using it. Of course, testing and the actual user using is costs you the more than building the application itself. Building is easy. It's a couple of API integrations and maybe you are done. But when the user starts using it, it starts costing you money. When you test, it starts costing you money. We did one for one of the agents. We wrote 3,000 test cases. Cost us around $200 running that suit once because it goes to AI multiple times for each test case. So it's costly. Yes, it's costly.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So, what kind of architectural trade-offs come with building, software for autonomy versus control, right? I'm sure there might be some trade-offs in that process.
So yes, the architectural trade-off there will be in this one, where it's completely autonomy. Then we have not put human in the loop. So the UI side as well, and in backend side as well. So all those places where the review systems and all those things, we no need to put. But in the control mechanism, all those things should be take care, right? So like in this one example use cases we used where there were like multiple places where human oversight required. So from that side, again, the separate well implementation side as well, and the architectural, there is like API, different kind of API integrations. So if in the autonomy, like we can a little bit rely on system itself, where it will use those APIs and do that. But in control, it will be like different.
Okay, great, thank you. So here's the next question. So how trustworthy is Agentic AI for administration use cases? And the questioner gives an example, say for auditing a marketing campaign, success of a marketing campaign. Can it be trusted?
I think yes, in a nutshell, but the problem is what kind of audit we are talking about. If we are talking about qualitative audits, yes, you can trust. But if you are talking about exact quantitative audits, then AI is not good with numbers in all the cases. If lots of numbers are bombarded and then we expect AI to do some calculations and come up with some, beautiful numbers which are accurate, then they are not accurate. It says 15, then it says 20, then it says 16. So for those purposes, I would say no. But for qualitative purposes, I would say we can definitely use. Alakh, any insights from you?
Yeah, so you're right, Ritesh, but a few things like it's improving a lot, and with some tools, which tools can be like can work as a mathematical solutions for agents and these LLMs. There, these LLMs and agents will utilize these tools for these number calculations and like generating insights from this. So overall, if we will combine relevant tools and relevant data inputs, then overall it will be like we can do something little bit trust on those, and it's improving a lot in nowadays.
Great, thank you. So anybody who knows anybody AI has heard about hallucinations, right?
Yes.
AI making up stuff to get maybe for speed reasons or what have you. So how do you handle this risk of hallucinations or wrong actions by agents? How do you correct for that?
Yeah, so that it's like very big problem, but now there are like a lot of technologies to handle this. So we can pass like RAG pipeline, retrieval augmented generation, right? So we can pass relevant information with the query. So the chances of hallucination will be very less. We can fine tune LLM. It's not in every case, but if it's required to give more domain knowledge, so LLM will not hallucinate. And at the final, obviously, human oversight is like always better. In some cases, where it should not be like 100% accuracy, we should be there. So it's not like where GDPR, CCPA, all those things we discussed, right? All compliances. If those things and will matter, then human oversight is anyway good thing. But there are like a lot of other tools which I mentioned, RAG and all, and other prompting and those things where it will handle hallucination better.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think prompting is very important, Alakh. I agree with that because we have seen that when you write a very short prompt as a system prompt, it becomes very difficult for the agent to do the right thing, and it starts doing the wrong things because it's not clear enough. So it's important for in the prompt, there are two things. One is what the agent should do. The second thing is what the agent should not do. So always mention what you should not do. If you're not mentioning that, then that's a risk. And second thing is for hallucinations, the best is testing. Right, we mitigate hallucinations with RAG a bit, with prompting a bit, but then still it hallucinates. And I think testing is one of the best thing. Of course, there are multiple ways. One is classical manual testing, of course, that will be done in a system, but then we can automate those testing like using frameworks like Ragas or DeepEval or OpenAI's Eval, correct? We can use those and see what kind of outputs we are generating and if they are hallucinated. And at times we have also used different LLM as a judge. So if OpenAI is serving my agents, I'm using Claude as a judge and sending that data and context over and asking to match and tell me if it is what is the accuracy. So if it is more than 90, I tend to trust it and move forward. So those kind of tests will definitely help in this kind of cases.
Yeah, building in redundancy to IT systems is always at the very beginning, very important. So how do we handle security and access control related to agents in agentic AI-based SaaS systems is the question.
Yes, so basically, the most important or emerging tech right now to handle this is the MCP servers. I think earlier people were trying to expose agents directly giving access to the database. Agents were directly accessing the servers and APIs. Now, the access control layer has shifted. So there will be three layers. Or four layers. One will be the orchestrator agentic layer. Then there will be your agents, which will be sitting. Below that, there will be your tools and the MCP servers. And below that, there will be resources like your APIs or databases or file system like S3 or blob storage. So your MCP server knows which agent can call it, which and what kind of data it should provide and allow it to expose basically. Yes.
Okay. So how do we ensure that the agent remains aligned with our business rules, with our user preferences, with safety boundaries, all these things we've already established in our organization?
I think this will mostly be covered like Alakh and we discussed with majority of the things can be covered with prompts. And second thing is the retrieval augmented generation. When you are trying to generate some content or generate some kind of response, you provide with relevant insights. And third most important thing is the memory. We should build memory around what user is talking to the app when user is talking to the application. That can be done using several tools like there is an online tool called or a SaaS tool called Mem0. You see people are building SaaS using AI now. So yeah, it's not going anywhere. So you can use Mem0, you can use LangMeme. So I think these are important. And safety boundaries, of course, it could violate safety boundaries. It could, start responding to geopolitical content or obscene contents. But then yes, prompting and I think input and output moderation should help. I think all the inputs that the user is typing in should be moderated, and all the output that we are sending it should be moderated as well before sending it to the end user.
So yes, it is like this, like very good point. But and to add to those things, if there is a role-based agents, those are like improving a lot for those safety boundaries and their roles. Also, like while giving access to the data sources, there also we can put some restrictions to agents, like not all those things we are giving. Instead of that, there are some restrictions we can put for just safety things, and giving like for those data or informations which is required at that particular role. So there, that's how using auto prompting and these role-based scenarios we can improve these user preferences and safety boundaries more.
Okay, great. I think we got time for maybe one or two more questions, guys. So this next one is about testing. Can you talk a little bit more about testing hybrid software, SaaS plus AI agents, and what would be a strategy or an approach to testing it?
So I would suggest like mix of that, using conventional testing, whatever DI we were doing, but using agents and help of LLM as well. So where if we are mixing these things, so some things it's not like straightforward, because in agentic we are using agents in between, so output is not like completely fixed. So those things we can evaluate with the LLMs, and other things we can evaluate using the conventional SaaS, however we are testing it using scripts and fixed logics.
Excellent. All right. Well, I think that's about all the time we've got. So I wanted to thank you guys for a great, really engaging discussion. That's going to be just about wrap it up for today's agenda. So on behalf of everyone at Talentica, thank you all for joining us today and being part of this very important discussion about the future of software and agentic AI. We appreciate your time. We appreciate your questions and, of course, your engagement. As a follow-up, we'll be sending the presentation slides to everyone who registered via email, so keep an eye on your inbox. If you have any additional questions or you'd like to continue the conversation with us, please feel free to reach out. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks again, and